yes, go get outside of your comfort zone, but nobody talks about what happens when getting outside of your comfort zone goes horribly wrong, which it's going to at times. Not every time, probably less than you think, depending on what side of the Drive to 5 you're on.
Where am I off in terms of where my comfort zone actually is and how far outside of it is actually optimal? Not just for me, but for the other people in my life. And I would say, yeah, everyone reassess that. Maybe you're way too inside your comfort zone in a lot of stuff.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 1780, it makes sense why you want to stay in your comfort zone. I always have these moments, Alan, when you're taking a big swig of your drink, but when I'm doing the intro, that I just want to say something extremely funny and make you spit your whatever you're drinking all over the place. But then we wouldn't be able to do the episode, so nobody would see it, so I don't do it. But I have that conscious thought almost every time.
Really?
Yeah, I hold myself back.
Nice.
Not really.
Not that you hold yourself back, but
yeah.
Sometimes I have spit my drink out.
Would you like for me to do it occasionally?
Definitely not.
On occasion? Every once in so often?
Once in so often, I'd say, yeah, depending on the frequency.
When that is? Okay. I'd say weekly, probably. All right.
These are expensive microphones, so I don't think we should ruin them.
That's true. They might be waterproof. You didn't think of that, did you? It makes sense why you want to stay in your comfort zone. I told you the story. It's an unheard story. Nobody's ever heard the story before. It's never left my lips. It's been locked. Are you ready for it?
I've heard it.
You've heard it, but other than you.
Yeah.
Nobody outside of this room, this proverbial virtual room. Okay. So as you know, when I was, I don't know how old I was, maybe 23? 22? Maybe? I got to look back and figure out my
60
age.
years ago.
It was a minute ago. I did the fire academy. I was at the time I was operating a forklift and I was driving a truck, and one of the kids I worked with was telling him how miserable I was. He was like, what do you want to do, man? I was like, I don't know. I don't really know what I want to do with my life. And somehow we talked about being a firefighter. And he's like, dude, you should do that. Go get on the on-call fire department in your town and see what happens. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And then I went and told I asked my boss, who was my uncle, and then one of the other bosses, who was not a nice person. And I said, hey, I need to get out of here. This shouldn't be anything, not a big deal or anything. I just got to get out early Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I can't work Saturdays. And they were like, absolutely not. No, not a chance. And I said, well, it's this thing, I kind of want to go to the fire academy, kind of chase this dream I have. And they're like, yeah, no, not going to happen. It's like, all right, cool. I quit. You guys can go pound sand, and I'm going to go to the fire academy. Thank you so much. And then the head boss was like, wait, you're going to quit without another job? And I said, yeah, gonna do it. Not my first rodeo, son. I've done this before. You know what I mean? Okay. So I quit that job. And then I went and I went to the fire academy, the on-call fire academy. So I think it was Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. We had classes. So Tuesday and Thursday were classrooms. You go learn about stuff. It was just writing and learning and notes and presentations and that stuff. Saturday was practical day. So on practical day, you would literally either go to the burn house or you go somewhere else. You'd go to, where did we go?
The burn house.
Most of them were at the burn house, the burn building. It does sound like a band. And at the burn building, they have a building that you can put a bunch of hay in, and you can have live fire training, and I think they have a car there, so you can practice with car fires, and you can do fire extinguishers and pull hose and all this stuff. And on this one, we were learning how to use one of the big, I don't know the name of it. It's a big saw. If you've ever seen somebody cutting asphalt, it's kind of like the same saw. But this is the saw that you can use when you're trying to vent a roof. So you literally climb up on top. If there's any firefighters listening to this and I'm telling it wrong, it's been a minute. And again, my time in the fire service was very short. Very, very short. For reasons similar to the ones I'm going to talk about right now. So we were using this saw. And there's only one rule. Whatever you do, you make sure you're cutting just the thing that we're trying to cut. Don't cut anything else. Absolutely. So on top of this burn building, there's okay, now I remember what it was. There was this like roof hatch. So if you were in the top floor of the burn building, there was a hatch above you. So you could put a ladder up against it, you could climb to the very top. And this hatch was lifted off of the floor. So it was probably like, I don't know, let's say it was a foot high. So how do I explain it? Okay, let's essentially put it this way. We sat a piece of wood on top of this roof hatch, so it was in the air, so you could cut it. So it wasn't flat on the ground. It was in the air, held up by these. Just think of it as like a metal chimney. Best way to explain it. But not as high. Okay, like 2 feet off the ground. And the only rule was you cut the wood. Don't cut into the metal part of the chimney. Just don't cut into that, because that's a piece of the building. That's part of it. It's not meant to be cut. And if you cut it, it's going to be there forever, because we're not going to knock the building down because you made a bad cut. It's like, yeah, no, that makes sense. I could see that. Yeah, cut the wood, not the metal. Sure. Everybody goes. People are crushing it. Awesome. Kev's turn. Let me fire this thing up. Ring, 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 ring. And I start cutting. And then, I don't know, 15 seconds into cutting, the chief starts yelling at me. You're cutting into the metal! And it's like, what do you mean I'm cutting into the metal? I don't think I'm cutting into the metal. Then I stopped, and I was cutting into the metal. And I told Alan, the chief, he was nice after. I think he was just angry, but he was not happy with me. And he was very disciplinarian at that moment. And I felt like a freaking idiot in front of all these people who, I think everybody else did it right, except for me. And then it made sense. It made sense why I didn't want to raise my hand or do things. I didn't want to test out the fire hydrant. Of course I don't.
How early into the program was that?
I think this was actually towards the end. So I don't know if that's good or bad for this example. But I felt like an idiot. I felt like a very, very large idiot. And that's where the topic of today's episode came from. Of course I didn't want to get outside of my comfort zone after that. I just got laughed at, essentially, by the chief in front of everybody. And made to feel like an idiot. Again, there were certain people that were rough. I mean, they were very, very hard on you. That's the way they taught. This is a very serious thing, right? It's not like we're playing, and again, nothing against soccer, but it's not like we're playing a soccer game here. If you do something wrong, people can die. So, chief, lay into me, it's all good. But can you imagine the next time I got an opportunity to raise my hand or do something outside of my comfort zone, if I wanted to do it? Definitely not. So, that's the example of how I was a terrible fire service person.
The purpose of this episode is, Kevin and I had a conversation behind the scenes today of, we are starting to, you've always had a lot of empathy for this. I have had some for sure, but I think that in the beginning of this journey in the self-improvement space, personal development, personal growth mindset, it can be really easy to say bumper sticker self-improvement stuff like get outside your comfort zone. Nothing grows in the comfort zone. All that kind of stuff. And that's true. And it looks really good on Instagram. But I do understand more than I used to why people don't get outside their comfort zone more. And the reason Kevin and I decided to do this episode is because I said something along the lines of, the reason why I understand why more people don't get outside their comfort zone is because when you do, you pretty much always screw it up. You always screw it up. That's where all of the failure is. And so one of the things that I have learned over the last couple of years is that everyone has one of two deep fears. One fear is fear of failure, like Kevin's describing, and being laughed at by the entire class, so to speak, for being incompetent. Mm. And in that case, you were incompetent. Mm-hmm. Okay? And you were super embarrassed for that incompetence. You felt like an idiot, and that was traumatic. I'd say it was fairly traumatic. Yeah.
It sucked.
Emotionally traumatic. Yeah, it
Yeah, it
sucked.
sucked.
Really bad.
Well, I don't know how traumatic it was because it literally took you and I thinking about it I thought about it for like 15 minutes of a good story. So I don't think it was that traumatic. All things
Okay.
considered.
I would say it was little T trauma. There's little T trauma,
Yeah,
big
yeah.
T trauma. Big T trauma is a car accident. Little T trauma is getting laughed at in front of the entire class.
Fair,
but
fair.
remember, that can be little T trauma. Yeah.
That's fair.
From what I've read, that I think is accurate. So that would be what's called a little T trauma. That's competence, laughed at in front of the class, so to speak, from being incompetent. And I think that's one, if you're in that bucket and that's a deep fear of yours, that's the camp that you're in, for lack of better phrasing. There's another side of this, which is social abandonment and or social pain, social attacking. What?
I'm sorry. I'm laughing.
It's okay.
I just think there was a moment where I was like, Alan has lost. He's completely lost and he has no idea what he's talking about.
No, brother. I'm working on my speaking longer pauses.
You were looking off into space.
I
And
know.
right before we recorded the episode previously, he was off the rails a little bit. So I had a moment where I was like, "Oh my god, I've lost the kid. The kid is
I've
lost."
lost him again.
I've lost
no,
him
I'm
completely.
actually more on the rails than I think you think,
Okay,
but maybe less than I think, right?
that's fair. Yeah.
All right, so competence, courage, and social courage. I often talk about that. Why do you need competence, courage? Why do you need social courage? In this case, you were not only incompetent and ridiculed by the chief, but you were also in social pain because other people were there and it was in front of other people.
Yep.
So that made it even worse. And so to bring this back to the comfort zone, one of the reasons why I've had trouble figuring out that quote, you have to get outside your comfort zone. One of the things that I think is really hard is I was really comfortable doing with failure. I felt very comfortable with failure. Very rarely so we did something earlier today and I failed right in front of you, and I don't feel like that was that big of a deal for me. But there were times in high school where I got bullied for asking a dumb question by one of the popular kids. I've told this story. That really socially hurt a lot. And there was a instance where some of my closest friends were ridiculing me, saying, "You really think you know more than the textbook," and this whole thing. And that was really painful for me because they thought I was arrogant and all this stuff. And I ended up proving the textbook wrong, and I went to the different teacher and all this stuff. But the point is social pain versus competence pain. And Kevin and I on this journey over the last 7 years, when we both give a speech, I'm afraid that my character will be attacked and that I won't be liked, I won't be relatable, and that people will dislike me and or villainize me and or hate me and or attack me and come up to me after the speech and say something really negative, which happens, by the way. Kev is afraid that he won't add enough value or he'll be seen as incompetent. We have two different fears. My fear is lack of belonging and being villainized and attacked. His fear is not maybe adding enough value or not being seen as competent. And I think we all have those two fears. And so for everyone out there watching or listening, I understand why you don't get outside your comfort zone as much as maybe the bumper sticker Instagram stuff says, and myself included, by the way, is we just have different comfort zones. And so for everyone out there watching or listening, to bring this to something relevant and practical, what is outside your comfort zone? It is outside my comfort zone to teach. I have a speech coming up that's quantitative decision analysis. I'm outside my comfort zone with that speech, not because I don't think I'll do a good job, but because I think the kids are going to hate me and or judge me and or think I'm arrogant or whatever. I'm going to be villainized. I'm not concerned at all whether or not I'll do a good job, as arrogant as that sounds. And so I think if you were to give that speech on quantitative decision analysis,
I don't even know what that means. So.
right, you'd be afraid to be incompetent, but you wouldn't be afraid to be hated. Is that
no?
fair?
No, because this is a school of very smart, intellectually talented humans. I didn't go to college. Yeah, for sure. I think both. 100%. I would think these people are going to hate me, and I'm not going to add any value. It's going to be terrible.
You think
For sure.
they're going to hate you?
Not hate. They're not going to like me. What are they going to like me? I'm not like them. They're not going to resonate with me. The hell's this guy doing here?
I think more than you'd think.
Maybe. I think
we gave a speech in front of engineers, you and me. How did that go?
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Pittsburgh.
Oh.
Those were all a lot of those are engineers. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
I feel like it went all right,
NLU listener, what is happening? I just wanted to jump in here and let you know if you want to get to the next level faster, we have a free virtual monthly meetup at the first Thursday of every month, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You can connect with like-minded people and become a bigger part of this amazing global community. The link to register will be in the show notes.
It's hard to say. What did we do? We did like a speech, and then we did like a
workshop
presentations. I mean, yeah, probably went better than I expected, I would say. It's one of the challenging things is people tell you to get outside. They tell you to get outside of your comfort zone. They don't tell you how far. That's one. Right? It's like, thank you, but I need some direction here. It's like drive down the street. Okay? How far? How far do I go, and then where do I turn? Well, just drive down the street. Okay, cool. It's step one.
Until you crash.
Until you crash. Well, that could mean anything. And the second thing is, yes, go get outside of your comfort zone, but nobody talks about what happens when getting outside of your comfort zone goes horribly wrong, which it's going to at times.
Yep.
Not every time. Probably less than you think, depending on what side of the drive to 5 you're on. But that was a really good example of, imagine if someone said, if I said that, yeah, tomorrow we're going to be doing the cutting on the roof, and I'm freaking out. I've never used the tool before. I don't really know what I'm doing. And somebody said, Kev, you're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. I mean, what's the worst thing? What's the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is truthfully a lot worse than that. I could have cut my finger off or something or hurt somebody else, right? Realistically. That wasn't the worst case scenario. But it still sucked. It still wasn't great. So there are those times where somebody can unintentionally lessen the amount that you're going outside of your comfort zone by them saying, well, yeah, what's the worst that can happen? I mean, the worst thing that can happen to me might be different than the worst thing that can happen to you.
Yeah.
The worst thing that can happen to me might be, I mean, the worst likely thing is I make a mistake and everybody laughs at me, and then next time I show up, I'm embarrassed, and I never open up to be the full authentic version of myself. Maybe that's mine. One of the other things that happened was we would have it was kind of a conditioning class. And you put on all your gear, and you'd put on your oxygen, and you'd put on your mask, and you'd go, it's called go on air, when you lock in your oxygen and you're breathing straight oxygen. And the ultimate goal of this was to suck down all of your air. So I think it's like, I don't know how long it is. It depends on the size of the bottle. But you ran the stairs. It was essentially like a cardio test. You know how excited I was for that day? I was like, I'm going to crush everybody here. I train way harder than this at the gym. And I think
Nice.
I don't know if I was the last person, but I was one of the last people to the point where they said, Kev, you got to breathe down your tank sooner, or we're going to be here for like too long. That was easy for me. But you know how many other people, there were some people in the fire academy that weren't nearly in as good a shape as me.
Yeah,
I bet
so
you
that was outside their comfort zone.
That was for me. That was I was training for the fire academy. I was doing hard cardio. I was doing circuits. The last thing I wanted to do was get tired, and I was in really, really good shape at that point. So that's a really good example of that day was probably outside of a lot of people's comfort zones. For me, it was in my comfort zone, and it was way easier probably for me than it was a lot of people. And if anything, it was outside of my comfort zone when I probably looked arrogant because I was one of the last people standing and it wasn't that hard for me. So that's another example.
Emilia and I, before the 5K we did this past summer, she said, I don't know, my cardio's not there. And I said, sweetheart, I think you're going to do great. I mean, we've exercised every day for over 2 years. I feel good. She said, I don't know, Alan, my cardio's not where it needs to be. And she's been mostly strength training. And I actually remember saying to her, I think you're going to surprise yourself. I think you might be pleasantly surprised. She wasn't. She did worse. I think she ran a 32, 33, something like that for a 5K, which again, she's 5'3". I mean, it's not terrible. It's not terrible, but it's worse than I thought it would be for sure. And I ran, I think, a 24, like 23 something. But that's the problem with get outside your comfort zone. You're absolutely right. By how much?
Yeah, nobody tells you.
And your entire comfort zone is predicated on self-awareness.
And the arena.
Yep.
Like different comforts. It depends on the arena. What do you... yeah, you have to be very self-aware. You have to be very, very self-aware of what is the arena, what is my experience in the arena, what is my relationship to the arena. There's so many things that go into it.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard.
And then everyone who ever gives you advice, you have to trust that they're calculating where you are,
Which they're not.
where you've been, and then what amount outside your comfort zone you can emotionally handle. Yeah, I would say that's extremely humbling to realize that. I feel like I do that better than I ever have, but not. Yeah. It's very difficult, particularly in coaching, because I'll have clients say, well, I don't know. Do you think that's too much? And I usually will ask them, what do you think? I say this. This is not how I used to coach, but now I say, I would rather you start small and exceed than aim higher and miss. So I say, because we always set goals. We do quarterly milestones, and then we do annual goals, and then we do decade mission statements, so to speak. And we did an episode a couple weeks back on some of the examples of mission statements. I want to get enough clients for financial freedom while not hurting my quality of life is a good example. Okay, now what are the goals? All right, so I want a gross revenue of $120,000. Okay, that means I need to make $30,000 this quarter. Okay, do you think that that's doable? They'll ask me that. Do you think that's reasonable? And I'll say, well, how much did you make last quarter? And they'll say, well, 22. I say, do you think you can make 8 more? I think so. I said, I want it to be a stretch, but I don't want it to be... I don't want you to miss forever. I want you to aim low and hit, and then up the ante. Aim low, hit, up the ante. Aim low, hit, up the ante. In the past, I used to do the opposite with myself, where I would aim high and miss, because I don't think I understood how hard it is sometimes for people to aim high and miss if they have low self-belief.
Yeah.
Because when I aimed for a 6-minute mile and I hit 7:10, it actually made me more motivated, which is why I did better on the 5K. Whereas for other people, that might actually really hurt their self-esteem a lot. So it's really important to understand yourself in all this, because you're coaching yourself. If you don't have a coach, you should be coaching yourself. How do you set goals? You set goals based on self-awareness, hopefully. If you've never made $100,000, don't jump there, right? I mean, the year that you made $100,000, at least you made 80 the year before or whatever. It's not like you jumped from $5 an hour to $100,000 a year.
I don't think it was 80. I don't know how much it was. It wasn't a drastic jump. It wasn't like, this is impossible.
What do you think it was? 20K, 30K?
No, way more than that. No. No, I'm just saying it wasn't 80. I don't know. It was a good amount. 70 probably.
Okay.
Yeah. I was just saying it wasn't 80. Not that it wasn't close.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else?
No, I think this was fire. I really do. I think that's got to be one of the and if you do go too far outside your comfort zone, you might hit a point of failure. You will hit a point of failure.
Yeah.
But how injured are you going to get? If you try to bench press 200 pounds and you rip your shoulder, you might be out of the gym for the next 4 months. So you don't jump from 150 to 200. Jump from 150 to 160.
Or you might resent it. That's another thing.
Yep.
You
might be out of the gym
forever. And again,
what about you?
The gym in this analogy, yeah, but anything, right? Like, if say you, what's a good example? Speaking is a great example. You want to be, say you're somebody who says, I want to be more confident speaking. and you go do something that's way outside of your comfort zone and it goes horribly wrong, you might end up being the person who says, I'm never speaking in front of people again.
Yeah.
And then that becomes part of your identity, and that locks in, and you miss all these opportunities. So that's a whole nother thing, is you start to resent the thing because it goes wrong. Even though it's not the thing's fault it went wrong, and it's not necessarily your fault it went wrong. That's just a mechanism of trying things at times.
You think a lot of people in the self-improvement space give advice that is not good for other people?
Yeah, for sure.
I think that...
As have I in the past. For sure.
Yeah.
As have I.
Hopefully NLU can be more humble in that. I do think we have become way more humble. I certainly have. I mean, I used to say, get outside. Yeah, just fail forward. Remember? We used to just say, fail forward, fail forward, fail forward. And yeah, it's true, but fail in the right amount, in the right arena, with the right goals, for the right reason, with the right amount of frequency, and make sure you take a breaks to lick your wounds. When you take a big L, you really need to heal before you get right back in the gym.
Today, Alan and I had tough conversations today. I was like, I didn't really want to do this. I want to go R&R. Today was outside of my comfort zone.
Same.
Right? Today was outside of my comfort zone. Today was outside Alan's comfort zone. It was, so if you
More
notice
yesterday,
any,
but
yeah, if you notice any difference on the mics today, that's one of the reasons why. Now, again, we still do it. We still show up. I always, once I get into it too, it's usually the first episode is like, oh man, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel flowy. And then by the second one, it's like, all right, cool, we're back. But that's an example.
yeah. And the last one, I went completely off the rails.
Yeah, different topic completely.
I merged two topics. In my
hard.
defense, I merged two topics.
Yeah, Alan, we were talking in the post-amble, and he said, the reason it happened is because we had 3 episodes chosen and named, and we don't do that anymore. We usually have one, and we say, all right, let's talk about it, and then we'll figure out the next one. So you change up the strategy. Sometimes things get jeffed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What would you like to end this episode with, good sir? Anything? So we can get you out of here.
I am from now on going to reassess. I told Kev this, the humility piece I want to work on. Just, I don't know how you build humility really. I'm still trying to figure that out. But I'm working on it. And we have a formula for self-belief. We have a pyramid of self-worth. I've never created any sort of formula to build humility. So I'm excited for that. But I think humility is, okay, where am I off in terms of where my comfort zone actually is and how far outside of it is actually optimal? Not just for me, but for the other people in my life. And I would say, yeah, everyone reassess that. Maybe you're way too inside your comfort zone in a lot of stuff. Maybe a 5K is too much to start with. Or maybe 5K would be easy for you and you need to do a 10K. I mean, when we did the 5K, there's a 10K option, and some of the really elite runners did that. And I was like, nope. Right? I mean, I could have, but it would have sucked way worse. And I'd rather do the 5. So are you playing at the level you're supposed to play at based on high self-awareness, based on the level you want to get to? And the level you want to get to is your goals and dreams. So you have to stretch, but you have to not get injured, or at least minimize the amount of injuries, yeah.
Next Level Nation, make sure you are subscribed on whatever podcast platform you are listening to us on, as well as YouTube if you are watching us there. That way you never miss an opportunity to get to the next level. Yes, some days we don't want to grow. Some days the alarm clock goes off and we say, you know what, that morning routine, we're not going to do it. But if you get a reminder that NLU dropped their latest episode, which we do every single day at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, then maybe that'll kick your butt into gear and you'll get a little bit better that day. So make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an opportunity.
There are people out there that can teach you how to get healthy, wealthy, and in love, but not everyone can keep you accountable and help you actually do it. One of the things that my clients have told me is what I love about the coaching is it just keeps me accountable. I have people that have been getting 100% days. Everyone is tracking habits. As much as that can suck, if you're struggling with consistency and self-discipline, and you need accountability, please reach out, Alan at nextleveluniverse.com. I can show you what my system is. I can show you how you reverse engineer your dreams into your goals, into your milestones, into your daily inch pebbles, and I can show you what the system looks like and how to stay on track. And I have a lot of people staying on track. I'm very proud of them, and I will help you stay more consistent. And we can start small. We're not going to start with 50 habits. It's nothing like that. I mean, I have some clients that are tracking 6 habits. I have some clients that are tracking 16. I have a couple that are tracking 24. But they all started really small at their level. And so no shame in starting small. I really, really, really want to encourage that. And so your goals will be custom for you. The habits and the goals will be completely custom to the level you currently play at. And so I hope you reach out.
As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Keep it humble. Next Level Nation.